Hey everyone, and welcome back. So today, we're jumping into a really fascinating and kind of strange story from your syllabus, The Third Level by Jack Finney. It's one of my favorites for sure. In this explainer, we're going to break down a few key ideas. We'll look at what a first day cover actually is. We'll get to know our main character, Charlie, and then we'll follow him on his truly bizarre experience at Grand Central Station. So, you ready? Let's dive in. Okay, so let's start with the big question, the one this whole story is built around. We really have to ask ourselves, is this third level a real physical place that someone could actually find? Or is it something else? Maybe an escape that someone's mind creates when it's under a lot of stress. This is the mystery we're going to solve together. All right, so before we can even begin to understand what happens to Charlie at the station, we need to understand Charlie himself. Now, his psychiatrist friend has this theory that Charlie's hobby, collecting stamps, is a sign that he's unhappy and looking for an escape. But to really get what he means, we first have to wrap our heads around a term from his hobby, the first day cover. So what is a first day cover? It's basically a special thing for collectors. Imagine a brand new stamp comes out. A first day cover is an envelope with that new stamp on it, but here's the important part. It's postmarked on the very first day that stamp was ever sold. That postmark is the proof.
Here's how you'd make one. You go out and buy a new stamp the day it's released. You stick it on a blank envelope, write your own address on it, and then pop it in the mail. The post office stamps it with that day's date, the first day, and when it gets delivered back to you, bam, you've got proof. It's like owning a tiny piece of postal history. Now, Charlie has a pretty smart comeback for his psychiatrist. He says, hey, wait a minute. President Franklin D. Roosevelt collected stamps too. So, was the President of the United States trying to escape reality? Of course not. This is Charlie's way of saying, look, a hobby's just a hobby. It doesn't automatically mean I'm unhappy.
And this brings us to an absolutely crucial point, not just for this story, but for your exams. Remember this phrase, correlation is not causation. Just because two things are happening at the same time, like Charlie collecting stamps and feeling stressed, it doesn't mean one is causing the other. It's actually a pretty flawed argument from the psychiatrist, and you should be able to point that out. So let's get a better handle on this guy, Charlie. Who is he really? And what's going on in his world that might lead to, everything that happens next? The thing about Charlie is that he's supposed to be completely normal, just an ordinary guy. He's 31, wears a standard suit and hat, just like everyone else. He's not some grand adventurer. He's just a regular office worker who's had a long day and all he wants to do is get home to his wife, Louisa. And that's what makes his story so powerful. It shows that the pressures of modern life can get to anyone. So on this particular night, his goal is super simple. He worked late, he's tired. He figures he'll take the subway from Grand Central Station because it's faster than taking the bus. That's it. No secret plan, no search for adventure. He just wants to get home. And this is where a totally ordinary trip home starts to get very, very strange. This is the moment Charlie begins his journey down into, something else entirely. Let's follow him as he gets lost in the depths of Grand Central. So he enters the station, heads down to the first level. Totally normal. This is where you'd go to catch the big, modern, long-distance trains, like the famous 20th Century Limited.
From there, he walks down another set of stairs to the second level. This is where the local suburban trains leave from, the subway that he needs to take home. Still, everything is completely normal. Just another day, another commute.
But then, he makes a different choice. He ducks into an arched doorway to get to the subway, and boom, he's lost. He finds himself in this corridor he's never seen before, and it angles downward in this weird way. He even says it felt wrong, but for some reason he just keeps walking. This is the exact moment where reality starts to get a little fuzzy.
Now, here's an interesting point. Charlie himself says he's gotten lost in Grand Central plenty of times before. He talks about always finding new doorways and corridors. But let's stop and think about that. Is a building like Grand Central really that confusing? Or is something else going on? Maybe inside Charlie's head? And this quote, it just perfectly captures his state of mind. He imagines the station is growing, like a tree, pushing out new corridors like roots. Now, we all know a building can't just grow, right? This metaphor is a huge, flashing clue. It tells us that maybe the growth he's seeing is happening in his imagination, not in the actual station.
So here's the main idea. For Charlie, Grand Central has become way more than just a train station. It's a symbol. It's become an exit, a way of escape from all the fear, worry, and stress of his modern life. The physical station has become a doorway for his mental escape. So at the end of this quiet, strange corridor, he starts to hear the murmur of people talking. He walks down one more short flight of stairs and steps out into a place that is definitely not the Grand Central he knows. In his mind, he's just discovered the third level. So let's look at the evidence he gathers. He sees that things are just different. The room's smaller, the ticket windows are made of old wood, the lights aren't the bright electric ones he's used to, they're open flame gas lights, and they're flickering. He sees brass spittoons on the floor. And the people, the men have these big handlebar mustaches and sideburns, the clothes they're wearing, the old steam train on the tracks. Every single detail points to a very specific time, the 1890s. But hang on a second. Think about this. Why does he notice and remember every single tiny detail so perfectly? The exact kind of suit a man was wearing, the green eye shade on the clerk, the specific shape of the locomotive smokestack. And here it is. This is the key teacher insight for your exam answers. You know when someone's trying to convince you of a lie? What do they usually do? They give you way too much detail to try and make it sound more real. Charlie's super detailed memory is basically his own mind trying to prove to him that this wonderful imaginary escape is a real place. Okay, so this brings us to the most important part of the whole chapter. We have to be able to separate what Charlie believes is happening from what the story is actually trying to tell us about the human mind. So let's just lay it out nice and simple. Is the third level a real place or a mental space? In Charlie's mind, it's a real discovery. But for us, as readers analyzing the story, we see it as a waking dream wish fulfillment. It's not a real trip back in time, it's a psychological one. It's a powerful, vivid illusion that his mind created because he was so desperate to get away from the stress of his life. So when you're studying for your exams, keep these major themes in mind. The story is all about escapism, about wanting to run away from the pressures of modern life. It's about our nostalgia for a simpler, more peaceful past. And most importantly, it shows us how blurry the line between reality and imagination can get. And really, that's the bottom line. The third level isn't a physical place you could ever find on a map of Grand Central Station. It's a destination that's created by stress and longing, a place you can only find on the map of the human mind. Well, I really hope this explanation helped you make sense of the chapter. If it did, please don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel at the ACE Archive for more deep dives into your CBSE English syllabus. Thanks for joining the class today.